Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Monday morning. It is the Earthmaster out here, about 8:19 a.m. That's California time. October 27th, 2025 is the date. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 2.7. Let's see here. And the green flag scattered out here somewhere on the globe. We've definitely seen a lot of activity ramping up out here in the last 24 hours. There's the 2.7 down south here across the Peru-Chile Trench. Notice some much bigger activity up north here this morning. Got some interesting activity stirring up here along the subduction zone. Out across the eastern side here of the Caribbean plate. Let's see, 6.5. It's been about 3 hours now since this series of earthquakes struck here outside the region of St. John's. Of course, got a hurricane over here around the Jamaica area, expected to make landfall tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning. That's now a Category 5 strength hurricane. Pretty serious situation out there, but we do have some interesting activity in terms of earthquake movement. 6.5 followed up quickly by a 6-pointer. And then also a 5.4 stirring up. So we got to watch this here closely because of that aftershock sequence there. A lot of times before large events happen, or literally minutes or hours or even sometimes days before big events happen, we'll see a large amount of activity as far as aftershock movement goes. Not 100% certain that's going to happen here, but we will watch this and see how the magnitudes behave. I pulled up the historical model for this area around the St. John's region. There's the 6-pointer, 6.5 that came in today. Originally, that earthquake was a magnitude 6.8, so a little bit of a downgrade. And then, of course, there's a 6-pointer. So far, the largest aftershock, if you want to call it that. And then it looks like 2023... we had a 6-pointer. It's been a little while, though, since we've had a magnitude of this level in this region. A lot of older activity out here, so that's what you got to look for when it comes to, seeing earthquake activity fill in that seismic gap zone. The only concerning factor here is that it's been quite a while since we've seen a mega quake out here, which is, possible. We could definitely see that. 1843 was the last big earthquake, roughly around the same region, maybe 75, 100 miles there to the west of today's event. But that's just one area that can see the mega quake activity out here. This is a major region, Puerto Rico Trench up north. Of course, this area over here has seen some large events. Let me tell you, a little concerning that 8.5 is very close to the today's activity. Also 7.5 back in 1974, 1690. There was a 7.5. Looks like the last bigger earthquake, aside from what we're seeing today. I had a 7.3 back in 2018, way down south here, but there's a lot of older activity, specifically in this region here where today's events happen. So I'm going to be watching the magnitudes closely, seeing if they go away or if they start kicking back up. Either way, that's a decent quake out there. Let's go ahead and see if there's any technical information on it. Normally the USGS will mention what fault system it's occurred on and the factors that are around this big earthquake today, but nothing being reported there from the USGS as far as any summary goes. There's a 6-pointer so far in aftershock, but again, we'll continue to watch that because could be some foreshock activity. Taking a look here right now, there's some activity stirring up around the Papua New Guinea area. That within the last hour or so, it looks like, for a 5.3. It's been pretty active over here across this area of the globe in the last couple days. A lot of older activity on here right now, but then all of a sudden we're getting some newer movement. So got to see how this behaves today. A lot of large-scale adjustment taking place all over the planet here in the last, Technically, last couple weeks, last couple days here, California, little bit of activity stirring up. Looks like we did have some further movement up here in Northern California early this morning. A 3.5, just right about that triple point boundary where the uh, three plates meet. You got the Pacific Plate, the Juan de Fuca Plate here, or the Gorda Plate. Technically, it's called the Gorda Plate because it's a separate plate than the Juan de Fuca. Along with the North American plate boundary. So you got the Cascadia subduction zone here, the interface of it, right where it begins to subduct. Got a little three-pointer, pretty shallow, about 0.2 miles there. So we are getting some stress quakes up here across this region. There was a couple yesterday as well in that portion of Northern California. Nothing showing up here on the map for the Pacific Northwest yet because it's still a little early. I don't think they've gone in and started to look at the data yet as far as any earthquake activity goes over the weekend or even as of right now. For whatever reason, that's just how it is there on the holidays and the weekends as far as reporting the earthquake activity. I do want to double check the not tremor map, but the volcano activity up there across Pacific Northwest and see what we have going on here. There's Mount Rainier. There's some earthquake activity. That's definitely a legit local earthquake activity to Mount Rainier. I'm sure that's got to be at least up in the 1 range, magnitude 1. There's a couple other smaller quakes in there as well. Again, nothing being reported there from the USGS. They'll get to it. They got to review the data. It's really weird how their preliminary data system works up here for the Oregon and Washington area. As far as Mount St. Helens go, let's see what we got. Nothing recent being reported, but we do have some activity. A couple smaller events here on the graph, and of course there's the seismic wave, the P wave, and then some S waves following that there for a couple hours from that big earthquake around the St. John's region there across the eastern side of the Caribbean plate. Let's see, Bay Area pretty quiet today aside from the Clear Lake volcanic field. That's just geothermal operations up there. Some movement across the San Andreas Fault from yesterday. Looks like there's a handful today as well, mainly across the creeping section here of the San Andreas Fault. Actually, it looks like it's north there of the creeping section around the San Andreas Fault northward. Nothing big, just some smaller quake activity. Southern California here was pretty busy yesterday with a handful of 2s and 3s. A lot of broad-scale earthquake activity here taking place. Nothing big overnight. Let's see here. One more earthquake above that 2.5 threshold for looks like a 2.6 near the Huntington Beach area. Down here across the Newport, Inglewood, Rose Canyon Fault Zone. Big-time fault system there across Los Angeles. One thing I pointed out yesterday is the faults that we're seeing earthquake activity out here was a little bit interesting because we haven't seen a lot of activity on them recently, such as this one down here, the Puente Hills Thrust Fault. Over here around the Santa Monica Fault as well, we've seen some earthquake activity, one north. And it was just kind of all over the place here, not just on one fault system, but a number of faults out here showing some interesting earthquake activity. That's indicative there of the pressure being applied and strain. The strain factor out there across the plate boundary right now is quite high. So when things are like that, we have to keep a watchful eye because that's when we could see big earthquake activity. But right now, it's not happening. But man, everything's moving all over the planet except for the West Coast in terms of any larger activity. Yellowstone National Park up here, yeah, it's from yesterday it looks like. I will double check that, see what we got here for the seismograph stations here on this wonderful Monday. I think we can call Monday wonderful, right? Really nothing big going on. There's the, it looks like some of the seismic waves there from the 6-pointer today. earlier this morning out there around St. John's region. I don't see any. I don't see any earthquake activity there across Yellowstone. Maybe some very small quakes, but overall, Yellowstone National Park super volcano has been super quiet. Periodic swarming once in a while, but really nothing in terms of long-term or major uptick. Oil fields of Texas out there around the Permian Basin, rocking and rolling with that liquid gold. Let's see what else we have out here. That's a pretty big earthquake. It's been, like I say, it's been a little while since we've seen that big of an event out there, but it does have some potential for some much larger activity. A little bit quieter out here around the Mediterranean today. Some 2s and 3s, nothing big going on. Looks like a recent 3-pointer right now in the western Turkey area. It never really calmed down over here across the Java Trench. I know there's some lighter or some darker color rings here indicating older activity from yesterday, but there's still quite a bit of movement in the region here, and considering this 5.3 fairly recent within the last hour or so, definitely still keep an eye on this cluster going on here. It's always clustering, always got a cluster of earthquake activity, but it's been amplified out here with a bunch of deep and larger movement here recently that point towards something maybe possibly a little bit bigger brewing. There's 4.6 earthquake this morning, pretty deep earthquake into the Tonga Trench. That adds further strain out here where we're seeing the more recent 5.3. But it's skipping over this area, and it has been for a little bit. So watch this area around the Solomon Islands. We had a decent earthquake out here recently. A 6-pointer in that region north of Port Vila. So we have had activity here in the last week. I may not necessarily fill in because of that larger movement, but definitely keep an eye on this area. Japan, not a whole lot showing up here for now. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, a lot of activity, a lot of 4s there from yesterday. All right, see what we got here. That almost sounded like thunder out here. I don't think we have thunderstorms, do we? Nope. Huh, weird. All right, let's check out the space weather activity here real quick, see if anything's blasting off on the sun. Pretty quiet across the flare department. I mean, in the last 3 days, it's been consistently in the B flare category. Talk about solar minimum. We're not there at solar minimum yet, but that's kind of what it looks like when there's really nothing going on. A number of coronal holes that are facing us, 91, 92, 93 over here a little bit on the northeastern quadrant of the sun, but we do have these lined up currently with the planet. Here's a more recent image that you can see of the coronal holes. I know it's a UV image, but this is more current compared to the previous image I showed you. So these are directly facing the planet. We've had a 6.5 today. I think a lot of us can agree that whenever these things are facing the planet here, we get some interesting earthquake activity. The last few times that the coronal holes have been facing the planet, we've seen some elevated uptick. Today looks like no exception because of the movement that's happening. Keep a watchful eye here in the next couple days as that coronal hole activity could influence what's going on here with the plate tectonic world. But really nothing big going on for as far as any flaring goes. We do have some potential aurora activity coming up. Nothing big. In fact, it looks like maybe tomorrow night here for Tuesday night is more of a chance of seeing some aurora activity. That's if it plays out. I don't even know what these are from. Let me see here. Where is our electric power community page not found? That's the wrong one. Let's take a look here at the solar wind prediction. Here's the sun. Green is the Earth. Stereo A there in the red. I believe these are from some CME activity here recently. There's one. Yeah, see, we're just how are they claiming that's a G1 storm? Uh, Looks like it's going to miss us. As far as the brunt of the material goes, maybe we'll get just barely a little glancing blow, but I'm not expecting much here. I don't think we're going to get up into a G1 storm, but mainly due to some plasma density. And that's, again, for potentially tonight, more than likely for tomorrow night, though, if it does influence the auroras here on the planet. Hurricane activity. Goodness, let's go see what's going on here for Hurricane Melissa. That is a monster of a storm, well up into the Category 5 level. Look at that, 165 mile per hour sustained winds. Imagine the gusts are up there close to 200 or so. That is not good. Hopefully everyone got out of there and is safe. Taking a look at the latest imagery here. You know, it's got kind of a... There we go. It was going off to the west-southwest here. Now we're starting to turn just slightly north. If you watch the eye wall, you can see that happen. Starting to move off to the north slowly. And this is expected to slam right into Jamaica later tonight, early tomorrow morning, potentially. They got 8 a.m. Tuesday for landfall there across Jamaica as a major hurricane. It potentially could make landfall as a Category 5 in the worst case scenario. But that is just crazy monster of a storm. Once it does hit land, though, it will drastically weaken, and as it moves off towards the Atlantic, you can see it dropping down to Category 3, 2, and then eventually to a tropical storm there about 168 hours out. But, man, definitely be keeping these folks here in some positive thoughts, because that is just a massive system and probably the strongest hurricane that Jamaica has ever seen. Big time system out there. All right, so this one's only got one run on it, so we have to go back here to the previous run, which is only 6 hours here behind, but still fairly accurate. Some rain coming in for the eastern portion of the country this week, it looks like. Pacific Northwest does have some more moisture coming in. California is going to be warm for a little bit, but looks like we may have some more precipitation there later down the road, I hope. You know, these La Nina patterns here, there's a fine line between Northern California getting rain and just a little bit north to where it completely skips Northern California and Oregon and Washington get slammed. Either way, I think with the La Nina, we have a shot of seeing some decent precipitation this winter. Southern California, probably not. They normally are much drier in the La Nina pattern, and that is pretty bad news here because they need some rain as well. There's some potential down there for some Santa Ana winds, and those can definitely stir up the fires out there. Let me see where our fire hazards are real quick. Fire danger. It's definitely high out there across Southern California, and will probably get worse here as the days go on. There's going to be some winds kicking up out there. Yeah, they definitely need some precipitation. We're decent up here, aside from a little rain shadow out there across Northern California. But we've had some decent moisture for October. We've actually been, somewhat elevated above normal. But that doesn't mean we should see a dry November. We definitely need some precipitation out there. This is our rainy season about ready to start. Also, let's see what we got here for any close approach asteroids. I was seeing there on the social media site this morning that there was some what looked like space debris over Russia last night or early this morning. Doesn't look like a meteor or an asteroid. It's moving too slow. Most of the time, those things zip through the sky and burn up pretty quick. What I was seeing looked like some larger space debris burning up in the atmosphere upon re-entry. But as far as any official close approach asteroids here, fairly safe, millions of miles away. We've got this one coming in under 100,000 miles for a 7-foot car-sized asteroid. But if that were to hit the atmosphere, it'd burn up pretty quick. I mean, that's a very small asteroid. It'd make a neat little fireball. Let's see here. What else we have? Nothing major going on there across the severe weather world. Just keep an eye here on things today. Again, we got a couple different coronal holes facing the planet. Earthquake activity seems to be on the uptick when those are facing the planet here. But, I mean, already we got that 6-pointer, 6.5 from this morning, 6-pointer there from yesterday in the Indonesia area. So uptick should continue today if those coronal holes have an effect here on the planet in terms of the movement of the plates out here, or at least as far as getting earthquake activity going. We'll keep an eye here on California for sure. Have a good Monday. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later on unless something major happens. Take care and stay safe out there.